You're listening to the Sports Cycle on 105.1 Live. I'm your host, Tim McKain, and today we have a very, very special guest, Joseph P. Holmes from Texas, 3-1 as an MMA professional. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I mean, you guys are awesome, but I would have been a lot better if you would have announced me as just Ugly Man Joe. But it's all good. We didn't establish that ahead of time.
Yes, sir. So why the nickname Ugly Man Joe?
Oh, man, it just works for me, man. And what I'm doing, just like dual reasons. Not only does it get super duper ugly in the cage for anybody who steps in there with me, but I just got a message I want to send. You could be yourself and be successful, and any one of us can be successful. You know what I mean? It's just most people that know me, they know, the deeper end of where exactly it came from. But it's just, me and a group of guys just, loving each other. And the way we love each other is, joking on each other and roasting, as some people would call it, or scoring, some people call it, you know what I mean? And every day it'd be like, you ugly in the mug, boy. And then like, somebody's actually not ugly. You know what I mean? You're just saying that. So
Yes,
that's kind
sir.
of the root of where it came from.
I got you. I got you. So, like, what are some of the relationships that you've developed since your career in mixed martial arts, and how has it influenced you as a fighter and as a man?
Wow. Most of my relationships right now are with people I train with. Um, and I couldn't be happier with the group of friends I have. We go snowboarding together. We go cross train together. We'll travel to other gyms and go spar or grapple. I have some of the best friends I've ever had, excuse me, my entire life, from meeting them at the gym. And not only has it made me a more confident, successful businessman, because
Mm,
every train with is someone who obviously can afford to pay a membership at the gym, so they have a decent job and they're stable in their life to make an investment on themselves, every day, which is the gym. Like going to the gym, if you ask anybody, it's not a cheap thing to do.
right.
You know, every friend I have from the gym is definitely somebody who was in a way better place than I was when I first training. So for them to be my closest friends, they definitely like brought me up to a higher level in the gym and out of the gym. So yeah, man, it's training martial arts has affected my life personally in the most positive way possible.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. But I also feel like maybe you had that same teammate mindset. Did that come from football? Because football actually was your first passion, was what you were interested in first, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Football was my everything. Yeah, back in high school and early college, football was everything to me.
So what led you to leave football and ultimately join mixed martial arts?
It was more so that the football that I was passionate about was more so like taken from me,
Mm,
like by my actions, not being, right in class, and not doing my homework and choosing to, go out and hang out with girls instead of go to
mm,
the library and do my work, and doing those negative things like ended up losing football for me. So, that doesn't mean the love and the passion of competing and being active and physical left my body as well. That was still in me. So, whenever I started doing martial arts, yeah, it was just easy for me to just dive right in. You know what I mean? Like I trained for 2 months at a super hard tournament, but I still managed to get a third place medal. You know what I mean? Against all these people that trained like way longer than I have.
yes, sir. And you've won about 20 medals in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, correct?
At least.
At
I
least.
got so many medals, man. I've been busy in jujitsu. I haven't been lately in jujitsu because I've been fighting at like a really high level. So I've just been training in jujitsu, not too much signing up for competitions, but oh man, I got a lot of jujitsu medals, a lot of gold medals, not a lot of silvers or or bronze. I probably have like 3 silvers and like that 1 bronze, maybe 2 bronze, but I got like 30 golds, 35
Wow.
golds. Jiu-jitsu is, yeah, no, jiu-jitsu is so much fun. When you get involved in it, it's so much.
That's crazy. Okay, so what was the transition? What was the original transition like from football to mixed martial arts? And when was the first time you decided that mixed martial arts was for you?
The first time I decided, well, the transition from football to jiu-jitsu was easy in the sense of the workouts. Like I could, get through them and be like, you know, like up there with the best people in the class, like when I first started, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, my technique might not have looked the best at that time, but like my work ethic and how many reps I'm doing and and how hard I'm hitting, or you know what I mean? Or just like how much effort I'm putting in was like up there with the higher echelon of the classroom. You know what I mean? When I first started. So it didn't take long for me to start training and getting beat up all the time, by the guys who've been training for a long time. You know what I mean? He
Mm,
couldn't really keep me new guys because the new guys aren't picking it up as quick as I was picking it up. You know
gotcha.
what I mean? And then I decided to really take MMA like all on serious. Probably I would say after that first jiu-jitsu tournament. And, I just had a really tough time. But I got 3rd place, and I've never been prouder of a 3rd place medal in my life than like my first jiu-jitsu tournament.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what was it? Um, so for one, what have you learned specifically as a fighter, being 3rd place in your first tournament, and what did you learn about yourself as a fighter and a person?
I learned like, like you could go in there and you could give your absolute all, and sometimes, like not training enough in the gym, not putting in enough hours could actually be the reason you don't succeed. A
Hmm.
lot of people think that I'll be all right. I can miss this class or miss this hour. I'll be all right because, I'll just, on fight day, I'll just, just show up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
Hmm.
like that. You actually do have to, put in all your hours and get those reps in of certain things because you'll find yourself using that technique to, either win that fight or be the turning point in the fight. You know what I mean? Like my last fight, I used several things that we went over in my camp that I just repeated and repeated so that
Hmm.
I can, do it successfully in my fight. And I did. So that's definitely one thing I learned about that. Like, I only didn't get first because I just didn't have the experience. The guys that beat me, they were doing things I'd never seen before, and that's only because I had been training for 2 months. You know
Right.
what I mean? So that's why right after, I got back in the gym, I got busy, I got to it, and I turned around and I started slamming gold medals. You know what I mean? Just back to
Amazing.
back to back. So, yeah, man, you got to learn certain lessons. You could, whoa,
I got you. Let's see. So like so what Joseph P. Holmes was saying was is that you always got to come back. Let's see if we can get him back on. I'm gonna try to invite him again. Um, but what he was talking about was that you can never give up. You keep moving forward. But I actually want to speak about something before he comes back on. I want to speak on the Canelo Alvarez fight and just some of the things that he's done throughout his career. And I think people they don't give him the credit he deserves. So for one, Canelo Alvarez, okay, he literally went from being a person who was 140 as a welterweight all the way up to 175. Okay, you have to put respect on that brother's name. Too many people they say, well, he's not fighting anybody at 160. He's not fighting anybody at 168. No, he's fighting some of the best fighters at 160, at 168. You have to give Canelo Alvarez credit. I mean, the amount of fighters that he's faced, the amount of Hall of Fame fighters that he's faced is just incredible. But like I was saying, Canelo Alvarez is somebody. When you look at his record, he's fought Lore, Eslanda Lore. He's fought Miguel Cotto. He's fought, of course, Floyd Mayweather, and he's fought so many different fighters. So you need to put some respect on Canelo Alvarez's name. Just side note, while I wait on Joe.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry
sir.
about that, man.
You good?
Sorry about that, man. My brother called me. He's at the liquor store trying to ask me what type of drinks he should get. And I'm like, man, like, come on, you can't call me right now.
It's all good, brother. It's all good, man. So, what were you talking about? We were talking about your experiences and and how your first match humbled you and how you advanced to become a better fighter.
Yeah, no. So yeah, definitely after getting those first golds, I needed that experience in order to know if I'm not in the gym, if I'm not drilling and getting those reps, I'm not going to be able to beat these guys who are. You know what I mean? Because especially in the sense that I was doing MMA since the beginning. I
Mm,
was just JiuJitsu or just boxing or just Muay Thai. I was training every single art equally from the very beginning. You know what I mean? So it definitely, my football background, you know, coming from practices where, you're on this side of the field for 15 minutes, you're on this side of the field for 15 minutes doing different drills, rotating from each side of the 100-yard field, what I'm saying, having to run to each station, get into that station and you're with a different coach doing all these different drills. Like that definitely prepared me for what I do now.
mm,
Um, since that this is nowhere near as intense as that was. You know what I mean? You weren't wearing, 20 pounds of stuff in the Texas hot sun. You know what I'm saying? Like doing stuff. That's not what I'm doing now. So this is like a cakewalk. And then the people that I fight, they're all so, I don't know, they just feel like if they pose right and they look cool enough in the camera that that's going to win the fight for them. Like, and
mm.
that's just not what it is, man. Like I can like at this point where I'm at, like I could literally look at my opponent and know that I'm going to win, if not how I'm going to win. And it's just a shame. These guys just don't even know. Like it's
Wow,
like ridiculous.
that's crazy. Do you feel like it's because, and that you were saying it already, but do you feel like you had that dog in you because of football and because of how big you are? Because one, you're 6'4", 185, so you're already a big guy, but you also have that football type attitude where you just come at guys. Do you feel like how much has football helped you when it comes to being in the octagon?
Oh man, tremendously, man. I was on the D line. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
I was in trenches. You know what I mean? Like, uh, um, I literally have been in moments where I was getting into the cage, and I would stop and look around me, and I would literally flash back to being on the football field, looking into the stands. I remember we played in Cowboy Stadium, and it was freaking
wow.
packed. I looking into the stadium, like all these people here to see me. Like those moments are familiar. You know what I mean? Like most of the people I'm fighting don't have those memories to look back and feel, you know, like some type of familiarity in the situation. So most of the time they're like brand new, they're feeling how I was feeling my first time. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah.
And it's all a mind game. You know what I mean? If I'm like feeling super confident looking at this guy and then he looks at me and he's not able to think in his mind like, yeah, I'm going to beat this guy, then he's not going to feel super confident. He's not going to look super confident. You know what I mean? His shoulders are going to be low. You know what I mean? He's going to be, you know what I mean? He's going to be looking away from me. Like that's what these guys are doing. I get that like predator mentality definitely from football, in my experience in football.
Yes, sir. And question though, because I actually interviewed a boxer yesterday, Reese Mitchell. Reese, shout out to Reese Mitchell. One of the things that he talked about was like one of the reasons why he likes boxing more than football was because in football you had to rely on the next man because you were going to in war with you were going to war with each other. But when you're in the ring, when you're in the octagon, it's just you and the other man. So just explain some of the differences between football from that perspective. And even though you had that football mindset, in football, you had another man who you relied on. But in UFC and MMA, you have to rely on just yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in football, you do have to rely on your teammates in order to win, but you still can do your job great and still make highlights on plays that you lost, that your team ultimately lost. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at it that way, which they kind of turn it into that when you get to college or like on your way to college, like when you're high school, you're like on huddle, pulling stuff off, you know what I mean? Pulling off plays, whether you won or lost that play, you're just trying to pull a play that you did your job real well. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it is a team sport to an extent, but still everybody has a job and you just got to do that one job, which that correlates very well to MMA. Because every opponent you have, you know, you go to your team and you're like, you know, do we think we can beat this guy? You know, that's always the first talk you have. And, um, you know, you'll look at him and be like, okay, if you think you can beat him, how? You know, how will we beat him? And this is what we'll do. And okay, boom, you know what I mean? You got to fight. But if you don't have those thoughts, like you see it and you're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
We might need to see what other opponents they offered us that month. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
So, some of these guys don't have that mindset. They're not like thinking like, you know, how do I beat them? And, you know, what do I do? Some guys are just in here like blinded somehow thinking they can just beat everybody. And which, if you want to be the best, yeah, you'll have to beat everybody. But you know what I mean? You got to beat everybody at the right time. You know what I'm saying? You got to be ready for everybody. You got to do your research. You got to be like, okay, this guy's been training for, you know, 5 years longer than me in jujitsu. So that means I probably can't take him down and grapple him, but I got him here. You know what I mean? So maybe let me fight this guy. He's going to prepare me for him. And then boom, you know what I mean? It's like strategy, it's chess. And some people aren't doing that.
See now that's interesting because some fighters what they'll do is that they'll study the fighter, but then you'll also have some fighters who be like, I don't want to even see my opponent. I trust my trainers to study them, and they just instruct me on what I need to do. As a fighter, what are some of the things that you do? Do you study your opponent as well as with your trainers, or do you let your trainers just look at it and they tell you what to do?
I do both. Yeah, I do both. I would say equally. Yeah, I definitely look up who I'm fighting, but I do it closer to the time. Like I do it like the last 2 weeks where I'm like cutting weight and stuff like that is really when I'm studying them. But yeah, and then the entire time my coach will have been Coach Anthony Selangsang at SFS MMA. He'll have been watching my opponent and he'll be giving me teammates to train with who are going to resemble that. You know, he'll be talking with the people that are going to my sparring partners and such and drilling partners about what they need to do to help prepare me. So it's not more so what I need to do; it's more so what I need to see. You know what I mean? Because he always tells me like I already know how to fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
He taught me how to fight. I have the skills. So each different opponent, I just need to know what I need to put on the front of my tool belt. You know what I'm saying? Because like Batman, he has a tool belt. Like,
Right.
you know, he has like his batarangs in the front, you know, like a grapple hook on the side. You'll have some smoke bombs on the front, you know,
Oh,
and then you have like some C4, you know what I'm
oh,
saying, off on the back somewhere. You know,
mm,
he only got like one or two of them. You know what I'm saying? He don't just throw C4 all over the place and blow. You know what I'm saying?
no.
So that's what it is. You gotta study your opponents. You can see what weapons you need to put on the front and what power weapons you need to have on standby for when things get hairy.
Got you. Okay, so my next question to you is in the fight. Okay, obviously, before the fight, pre-fight, you're training, you're listening to your coaches, you're studying the fighter. How much do you listen to your coaches when you're actually in the trenches, and how much do you want to go in there and you just want to go in with your own game plan? What's the game plan for you usually in these fights? Do you go in listening 75% of the time to them and the rest your own way, or is it in reverse?
I'm actually probably listening to my coach about 90% of the fight.
Wow.
90% of the fight, even before I go in, even with my Amis that I coach, I tell them, look, your main focus will be circle your opponent, bring him to us. You know what I'm saying? We tell
Mm,
them all the time, we're gonna jump him. We want to jump that guy. So bring him to our corner. You know what I'm saying? Have his back to us, and you're pressing him towards us. So that way you can, be in tune with what we're saying, what we're seeing too. As a fighter, you're seeing things, yeah, and you're using your muscle memory and fast twitch fibers and things like that in a fight. But your brain's going too, and when you hear something heard, like when you hear something I say or my coach says, then you need to just do it. You know what I mean? Don't like think about, oh, can I do that? No, just do it when you hear it. And if you didn't hear it, then just wait till the next thing you hear. You know what I mean? And do it when you hear that. So that's like a big like mental like strategy we use at my gym to definitely bring your opponent to our side of the cage, get him away from his coaches. And then at that point, we're almost like yelling in that guy's ear. You know what I mean? Our guy will have him on the ground in our corner, and we're just like yelling in his ear, like, yeah, now what? You know what I mean? Like, what, are you gonna get up? Or you're just getting punched in the face, the rest are gonna stop this fight. You know what I mean? Like that's me
wow.
in his ear while my teammates like smashing his face in. And we love that stuff at my gym, man. That's like what we're about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what were some of the greatest toughest battles that you've had throughout your career? And also, was there ever a fighter where you actually had to go to your next level to finish him?
Hmm. Honestly, man, my toughest battles in my career have been in practice. I remember
Mm,
one I was training at Fortis in Deep Ellum, and we had like 10 sparring rounds or eight 5-minute rounds. And my very last round, I was sparring with Neal. He just had a fight with Wonder Boy in the UFC.
wow.
And when I was there, he was actually one of my main sparring partners when I was there. But yeah, man. And we were sparring or whatever. And I kicked him in the head early in the round, but I didn't kick him hard. I had so much respect for Neal. You know what I mean? So, I was just happy to have landed a kick. You know what I mean? But we kept moving around and having a real technical battle. And maybe about a minute and a half left, everything just goes dark for me. And I just get like, I just realized that I can't see out of my right eye. You know what I mean? And I'm like feeling my right side of my face, trying to like open my eye because I can't see. It's just dark. So at this point, I'm like looking on the ground, like seeing if my eyeball's on the ground or something. Literally, like my heart was in my feet. Like I was like, yo, like, and it didn't even hurt. I wasn't in pain, nothing.
Mm,
Like I was just like in shock. Like, and I'm looking and I'm like holding my eye, and eventually I start getting some vision, and I was like, now it's like hurting. You know what I mean? And I'm like, holy crap. And I like sit down, like, dude, did you just like break my eyeball? Is what I asked him. Like, and it ended up I took a head kick, one of his famous jab head kicks, and
mm,
I almost got away from it, but it was his toe that wrapped around my hands up and just caught me right in my eye, like boom.
wow.
Yeah, so that was one of the toughest battles I've had because right after I landed that kick, his whole demeanor changed. He went from a friendly, sparring, last of 8 long, hard rounds with savages to, no, you're not about to land a head kick on me. I'm about to fuck you up. Excuse my French,
You good,
you
brother?
know, and it changed it so quickly.
Man, that is crazy. Okay, so what was your final takeaway from that fight with Neal?
Man, I mean, I just had to keep working. I definitely grew after that. I felt like I became a more aggressive fighter just after
Mhm.
that moment. I realized that there's no such thing as a light spar. You know what I mean? After that moment, and every spar I have is gonna be as hard as they want it to be. You know what I mean? And it's not something that you can decide before the match happens. A
Mm,
sparring match, I feel the the volume of it and like the difficulty of that match is decided during that match.
right.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys get caught slipping thinking that we were having a light match. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
can't do
And
that.
uneducated people don't realize that. You know what I'm saying? And people that are just doing this for fun, they don't realize that. You know what I mean?
That's crazy, man. I mean, I just can't. I mean, one fighting Jeff Neal and then one being humble like that. I definitely understand where you're coming from, but just also, I want you to speak on just like your growth from being a person who came as a football player, your first match as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, and now, what are some of the improvements that you've seen from yourself from the beginning to now?
Well, I've definitely learned to value myself to a higher standard. Even like when I was in school, I could have been considered like like a super athlete. You know what I mean? I didn't necessarily use myself to my full potential, at the time, but with my attributes, and with the right coaching, I could have became, something, like I had the body structure to carry, a lot of muscle and, I had the effort to put forth into a lot, you know what I mean? But it's just like, um, dude, I just had a brain fart just now. What did you ask me?
I was asking you the progression from being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist in the first match that you first had to now, to where you were. That's what I'm saying. From a football player in your first match to the growth and development as who you are now as a
Yeah,
fighter.
I mean, I wa- I rewatched all my fights the other day, like after I kind of was just like, wow, I can't believe I just knocked this guy out like that. I went back and watched all my old fights, and man, it's like the proof is right there. Like my first couple fights, my striking was not very technical. I was real jittery and wild, and jumping around the cage and stuff. And as things went on, I calmed down, you know what I mean? I got way more technical. And, I can actually see those things now because I have the technique, because I've been in the gym training to be able to
Mm,
look at it and be like, wow, like those things have paid off. You know what I mean? Whereas some people, they have like 1,000 fights, you know what I mean? But they never trained in between
mm,
none of those fights. They just go and have fights, you know what I
wow.
mean? Like street beast fights and all these other different fights. And they never get better. You know what I'm saying? They're
Mm,
getting just getting pooped on, just like boom, whack, just knocked out over there. Boom, boom, boom. Like, dude, you got to be training. You got to be taking a fight because you felt like you got better since the last time you fought. And that's the reason that I fought, fight, because every time I feel like I get better, I'm in there training. You know what I mean? I'm pushing myself, getting sponsors. You know what I mean? Having sparring matches with people that are supposed to be better than me, and I'm doing a good job, or better than I thought I would do against them. You know what I mean? I've sparred with so many professional Dallas fighters, for example, Kevin Holland. You know what I mean? I've
wow.
sparred with Fan. I've sparred with Jeff Neal. I've sparred with Alex Morano. I've sparred with Vernon Lewis. I've
Mm,
sparred with Evan Cut. You know what I mean? I've sparred with so many different Levi Miles. He's a little guy, but he's scrappy. You know what I mean? But I sparred with so many people in Dallas, and guess what? I've beat every single one of them.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like I've been going toe to toe with every single one of them. You know what I'm saying? Kevin Holland to the UFC, smacking, you know what I mean? Jacare Souza. You know what I mean? I see that and I'm like, oh yeah, Joe, you're in the right place because I can look back to me, you know, hitting Kevin Holland in the face. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know
mm.
what I mean? Like in a sparring match or something. So I'm like, oh yeah, man. Like I definitely just need to keep training, just need to keep, you know, doing what I'm doing. And I'm definitely gonna be, you know, one of the best guys in the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, and just curious, Joseph, are you 21 years old? Are you 21, 22?
No, I'm 25.
25. Okay, so you're 25 years old. My question to you is, we just saw Jeff Neal, all right, and he faced Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Okay, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is 37 years old. How long do you see yourself in the fight game? And what did you think of Jeff Neal and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's fight?
I see myself in the fight game until I'm about Wonder Boy's age, like 35. Around that age, I'll be looking for, you know, obviously about to be hanging up my championship. And I mean, that was a good fight. I mean, I don't, in my eyes, I kind of was like, Jeff didn't really look like himself, but, you know, I heard he was dealing with some stuff like heart conditions, but
Yeah.
Jeff didn't really look like himself. I seen a lot of openings that I felt like Jeff would have taken if he was himself that day. Um, like one time he threw a head kick. I think it was in the first or second round. Jeff threw a head kick that actually landed. He threw like his signature, like, you know, jab head kick. You know what I mean? And it caught Wonder Boy. You know, kind of just grazed him on his way out. And I was like, well, that's the first time I saw you throw that. You know, the whole fight so far. So you know, so like, yeah, I mean, that he didn't really look like himself. I feel like, you know, in a different scenario, Jeff probably would have mopped the floor with him. I feel like Jeff honestly
Ah,
has some of the best in his division right now. Um honestly, and I would put Kobe Covington ahead of him or,
mm,
you know, like Jorge Masvidal, you know. Those would be some of the only guys I'd really put like ahead of Jeff. But
I
yeah.
got you. I got you. So speak on it actually, because I want you to speak on this when it comes to the injuries, because whether it's in mixed martial arts, whether it's in boxing, you always hear about fighters going through injuries before the fight actually begins. So has there ever been a specific injury that happened to you because of training, but you carried yourself to fight? And how did you deal with potentially overcoming an injury that happened in training camp?
Well, I really don't get injured too much. I get hurt. Um And shoot, I guess just easiest answer would be this last camp. And you know, I call it injury just because it hurt like a mug, but
Hmm.
I just hurt my big toe on my right foot because I was uh, working on this push kick. Actually, if you saw the fight, the push kick I threw was actually like a tweaked from an injury that I got in sparring. I threw that
Mm,
push kick in sparring and then I caught an elbow with my big toe and it like just like hyperextended the joint and it was pretty painful for like the week leading up to the fight. So that whole wake up process was like with me trying to rehab that big toe. And
hmm.
one of the modifications we made was to turn it to the side, make it more of like a side kick. Um, so like it'd be like a push kick, but like turned inside. I don't know, but just that was something I used in the fight, and I like launched dude halfway across the cage. So it was pretty cool to be able to see like me make a modification that's successful in the real action. You know, like moments after actually working on it and you know doing it.
Absolutely. So, Joseph, what have you learned? Do you feel like you learn more from your wins or your losses?
My wins, because only thing I feel like I learned from my loss was don't let the judges judge my fights.
Mm,
You know what I mean? I feel like I have so many lessons to have learned from all of my wins. Every win that I watch, I'm like, man, okay, I wish I'd have done that better. I wish I would have kept that jab up higher every time I threw it, and then I go to the lab and I work on it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's just how it's always been for me.
right,
And which, again, if you go and watch my fights on my YouTube channel, Ugly Man Joe, you can see right there, like every time I would fight, the very next fight, I would look like, tremendously better. You know what I
right,
mean? Like, and it's only because I was training so much. Like,
yeah.
there's no other explanation.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because you see a lot of fighters, and a win to a lot of fighters, and to when I've spoken to fighters, sometimes the wins are like ego boost, and they do learn some things, but they also take a lot of things from their losses because they look and say, "Oh man, I could have done this better, I could have done that better." But you're saying you win, you learn more from your wins than necessarily your losses because you already had a game plan, correct? And you studied that game plan and you succeeded the game plan, correct?
A lot of times, but it was like, yeah, like, but when I'm looking at how I succeeded the game plan, I'll be looking at, how did my striking look? Oh, well, that kick was sloppy. Maybe if I'd have, thrown it like this, it would have landed and then the fight would have actually been like this. You know what I mean? And like,
Mm,
I end up watching the fight 100 at least times and, think about different things I could, do way better, and when I think about something I could do better, that means like I'm gonna go to the gym and be like, okay, today I'm gonna work on this,
mm,
today I'm going in all these matches, I got spar matches today, I'm gonna, work on this. You know what I mean? I'm not just sparring and I go in there and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go beat the crap out of all these guys. Like, no, like I have a fight coming up. I'm gonna beat the crap out of that guy. I'm in here so
mm.
I can, what I mean, get this better, or get that better, and become a better fighter. You know what I'm saying?
I do, I do. So who are some of the fighters that you grew up watching that you wanted to fight like, and not just in MMA, but also in football because you're also a football guy. So I'm curious, who are some of the athletes that you were a fan of when you were younger?
Um, to start off, like my football fans would be like Adrian Peterson or
Yes.
T.O. I was a good fan of at the time, or oh man, the defensive end for Cowboys around like
Demarcus Ware.
2013.
Demarcus Ware?
Yes, D Wade. Yes,
Yes.
sir. You know what I mean? Some of those were like, my hugest football fans. You know what I mean? Savage running back. You know what I mean? Nasty defensive end. You know what I mean? Slick
What'd you think of Marion
receiver. Those were
Barber?
like my top one.
What'd you think of
Marion
Marion?
Barber was a lot of fun to watch too.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
That was my squad. Just
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. That was my squad too. You from Texas. I'm a Cowboy fan myself. And I became a Cowboy fan
Yeah.
because of how aggressive Marion Barber was, how physical T.O. was. And then obviously I saw Adrian
Yeah.
Peterson. So just to say, man, we on the same language when it comes to football because I fell in love with that same style.
Heck yeah. Yeah. No, growing up, those were my guys, like playing football. And I got into football late. I actually got into
Mm,
football my freshman year. And it was just because a guy was like, man, you don't play football? And I was like, no, I'm in orchestra. He's like, orchestra? He's like,
interesting.
there's no girls in there. That's what he said to me. He's like, there's no girls in there. I'm like, well, there's no girls out on the football field either. He's like, actually, at this time, if you're out there, the cheerleaders come out for practice. I was like, I'm sold.
Hey, I get it. I get it. I would have done the same thing in high school. I would have done the same thing. But what about MMA?
Yeah, in MMA, I started off watching. Well, my first fighter was Nick Diaz. That fight against Nick Diaz and Anderson Silva, that's actually what attracted me to the UFC. I thought that was a joke. When I watched it, I was like, like, what's happening? Is this like a joker? And he's like a joke guy, and he's like fighting like a real fighter? Is this like, is he trying to be funny? You know what I mean? Like he would sit down like and like pose, or he would like practically twerk on the cage, like with that guy right trying to fight him. I'm like, what is going on? You know what I mean? But then they kind of started scrapping a little bit, and I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. And then when I started fighting, it was like Max Holloway, Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson, pretty much them. I watched a little Tyron Woodley and Stephon Struve. I watched him to try and get my striking, like a long guy. But that's about it. Alistair Overeem was one of my top fighters, actually. I ended up naming my son after him, Alistair.
Wow.
Yeah, those are like my top guys.
Wow. I know you didn't mention Jon Jones. It's interesting. You did not mention Jon Jones because I remember reading an article and you were literally like, Jon Jones was that guy. You didn't mention him. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jon Jones, yeah, but I'm not really too much of a fan of him anymore. I guess that's probably why I wouldn't name him. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but I guess, he definitely was one of my introductories as well, like to watch fight. But I liked how Mighty Mouse took people down more. You know what I mean? Mighty Mouse was shooting for takedowns, like double legs or single legs, and Jon Jones was more like he would shoot too, but it wouldn't be like, it would be more so like a counter shot. You know what I mean? He would like, somebody would come for him and he would like deflect it and then shoot and get the takedown. You know what I mean? And Mighty Mouse is more so like setting up his takedowns behind, crisp striking, and he had a combination. He threw the combo, shoot for the takedown. You know what I mean? And I really liked how Mighty Mouse did that. But Jon Jones, you're right. Yeah, I like how he kicked at the time, and I took a lot of kicks from Jon Jones. But I liked how Alistair Overeem would throw hands. You know what I mean? He would be in like kickboxing matches, but he would like throw hands, and I really liked that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, the first time I got introduced to Alistair Overeem was when he fought Brock Lesnar, and he had that huge knee that went into Brock Lesnar's stomach, dropped him, finished the fight. I thought that was an amazing fight. But I want you to speak on Demetrius. I want you to speak on Demetrius Johnson because I believe he's somebody who probably could have been. He probably should be recognized, and he is as one of the greatest UFC champions of all time. But I want you to speak on the greatness of Demetrius Johnson, and why do you feel like he's not as celebrated as other great fighters like Jon Jones or even Conor McGregor? Is it because of his fight? Is it because of his weight? Because he's lower in class? Is like, why do you feel like Demetrius Johnson doesn't get the respect he deserves?
I just feel Demetrius Johnson's more so like a goat, like more so like a legend, but he's not dead. You know what I mean? He's more so like, everyone who knows this sport knows, shit, when Demetrius Johnson did it, he did it that way. You know what I'm saying? He did it right. You know what I'm saying? The only time he lost is when somebody, the judges cheated him.
Yeah.
Because I think, who did he lose to? TJ or Henry Cejudo? Yeah, no, Henry didn't beat him. Henry
You
didn't
don't
beat
think
him at
so?
all. Judges voted. No, I disagree. I 100% disagree. But anyway, I feel like Demetrius Johnson, I don't feel like he's under celebrated. I feel like he's definitely celebrated. You know how famous he is over there in Asia?
Well, I
You know what
mean,
I'm
in
saying? That
Asia, but
man,
I'm saying
he's
like in the
just
United
not
States.
tripping. Yeah, I just feel like he doesn't promote his business to us because he's not, he ain't messed up about what we think. You know what I'm saying? He's such a celebrity over there that I feel like when he's here, it is what it is. Because everybody who does this knows, like, if you meet Demetrius Johnson, like, that's the one. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna fangirl, you're gonna want his autograph, you're gonna want a picture, you know what I'm saying? Like, all that. But it's just like, he ain't giving us content to share. You know what I mean? He ain't giving us nothing because he don't need it. He ain't worried about us.
I feel you.
I love Demetrius Johnson. He's one of my favorites.
Yes, sir. One of my favorites too. I mean, I just loved I love his style, and you're right. Um, Maybe he doesn't care, but I still feel like that he should get more respect than what he is in America, in my perspective. But I totally get what you're
Yeah.
saying. Totally get what you're saying. So, what is success to Joseph Holmes, both professionally and personally? Like whether or not you want to have like a business or whatever during after you retire, of course. But what is success to Joseph Holmes?
My success is going to be me just setting all of my short and long term goals and achieving them. I just don't want to get to a place where I'm no longer setting goals. You know what I mean? And I feel like when I'm at a place where I'm just continuing to do that and continue to achieve them, yeah, I'll be successful. Like right now, I feel very successful because a lot of what I've done recently are things that I set out to do. You know what I mean? They're not things that just like fell into my lap and I'm feeling so fortunate and blessed. No, I'm feeling really like blessed, yeah, but more so like just like proud of myself because
Mm,
I wanted to be here, talking to you and answering questions about my past, and I wanted to be having fights on television, on UFC Fight Pass, and knocking a guy out before the first round even ends. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be doing this stuff. So I practiced really, really, really hard,
mm.
and I was there late hours and I was up early mornings and you know what I mean? And I was starving myself, to stand on that scale and make weight, you know what I mean? And all those different things I had to do in order to, accomplish the goals I set for myself. So, yeah, man, I feel real successful and I look forward to becoming more successful in the near future.
I love that. I love that mentality. And you already kind of answered my question, but I'm going to ask it again in a different way. So, a young person, a little boy, a little girl, they look up to you. They see you put it. They see you put the work in. They see that you're already successful and you're reaching for even higher mountaintop. What are some of the keys that you would let a younger version of you, of a little kid, a little boy, know on what it takes to be successful?
Uh, Work hard, set goals for yourself. Um, uh, have faith in your own abilities because if you don't, no one else will.
Mm,
And don't complain. Just do what it takes. You know what I mean? Like if you can't do what it takes, the person telling you to do it doesn't need to hear you can't do what it takes. You know what I mean? Like you just can't do it. Walk away. And if that's too embarrassing for you, then stop bitching and do what it takes.
mm. Yes,
Straight
sir.
like
Do what it takes. Do what it takes. Well, Joseph, where can they find you on social media and YouTube? I know you have a YouTube and social media. And when do you want to fight next?
they can find me on all social media networks at Ugly Man Joe. I'm on Facebook at Joseph P. Holmes. I'd prefer you hit me up on my like page right now because like friending me on Facebook and we don't even know each other. It's kind of like weird, you know. But once we get to what talking or interacting on Facebook and we can become friends or whatever. But everywhere at Ugly Man Joe, I would like to fight the end of January.
Mm,
Um, I was offered something in Dallas, but they were I feel just being a little cheap. So I kind of can't do that. But
okay.
I'd like to be offered something else at the end of January where somebody is, trying to put on a show. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because
sir.
I'd love to put on a show. So
Absolutely. I believe, and I'm telling y'all, when you watch Joseph Ugly Man Holmes, he puts on.
no, I don't
Oh,
want to cut you off. No.
go ahead. All right, cut me off. Cut me off. Correct me.
Look, man, it's Ugly Man Joe.
Ugly Man Joe. When you watch Ugly Man Joe fight, he puts on a show. Yes, sir.
I
Thank you very much for your time, brother.
thank you for yours, man. Sorry
Yes.
about the small hang up in the middle and whatever.
No worries, man. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man. You guys are awesome. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Have a blessed day.
You too. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. You're listening to 105 One Live.